Who are the mentally retarded? They are people. They come in both sexes and in all sizes, shapes, creeds, and colors. Wherever people live, there also live the mentally retarded.
You dumb, lard-ass, lud-tard morons. You still don't get that the answer is the communication of spiritual knowledge and the communication of natural law and objective morality to the mindless, fucktard, zombie horde masses of this fucking planet.
Hello, everybody. This is the Great Retardation, Chronicle number 12. I am the Arabian Pleb, and with me is Cosmic Surfer. It's been a little while, been a bit of time between drinks there, brother. How are you, mate?
Yeah, mate. I am keep going on. Yeah. I'm here and on the mountain and just got out of the sauna and yeah, it has been a long time, so it's good to touch base and haven't talked to you in a little while. So yeah, I'm happy to be here with you, mate. It's I've missed you. You've been gone, mate. You've been gone.
I've been gone, dude, and I miss you too. You're looking good, I've got to say. We had a little chat before recording, but I forgot to mention, you're looking great, man. What are you doing?
Thanks, mate.
What's the secret?
Sauna.
Yeah, yes, yep. Hey, I've got to ask too, because I know you got the lights. What are they? Infrared lights. Are you still using those?
Not as often as what I like, but yeah, that's probably a good reminder because yeah, I have been thinking about that. Have a good stint on that. So yeah, I really like the red lights and having a separate having them separate from just the sauna. I think is the way to go. So I've got ones where like you've seen them, but I've got two lots of panels where one's for the side and one's for the front, and then you do I think it's about 12 minutes, and then you stand the other way. So yeah, it's like good for the when you're spending time on devices and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty popular like these days. Like Joe Rogan bought like a system worth over 100 grand US or something. It's like a whole bed just full of like all of that kind of stuff. He's had people on his podcast kind of go into it. It kind of taps into that, kind of wake up, do the cold plunge, and doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think like people that he's had on like Huberman or I forget the lady's name, but there's a Dr. Rhonda Patrick. Yeah, it's been a little while since I've listened to all that, but yeah.
Yeah, really cool stuff. I have to come up and see you soon on the mountain there, and we'll have to get into it. And what was the other thing? I can't remember what it's called, but you sat me down and
Yeah,
we
I know. I'll get into that. I'll get into that like with you on privately first before we get into it in more details because I think that there is I think the jury's still out on different versions of it and things like that. But like the underlying kind of thing to do with it is putting voltage into your cells for cellular rejuvenation. But yeah. It's kind of a controversial topic, I think, like with these like Rife machines and things like that. And
it was
like,
a trippy experience nonetheless. It was really fun.
yeah, yeah, and then the oxygen. Yeah, and this is what people doing those like recovery centers. Like that's what I mean. It's kind of like it's popularized now. But yeah, basically like yeah, that's been kind of growing popularity. Um, but yeah, did we what did you want to get into today, mate? Did you want to start with the Israel coverage? Because I know that that's one of your very specific areas of expertise. So, do we want to dive straight into like what's coming up for you, and specifically in Gaza? I've just been listening to Catherine Austin Fitz and the latest quarterly report, and I guess that's one of my like fundamentals, as you know, in terms of like the way that she states it is that every quarter for busy people you can get all of the downloads, like the main points and kind of what you need to know about it. And it's not that they're always right about everything like that, but I do really believe that there are like these key data points and kind of these independently researched subjects which are kind of they'll do reports on them, and you can yeah. And I think yeah, so that came out today with well, yesterday, but with Joseph Farrell. Yeah, and so what Catherine Austin Fitz was saying, early on, is that Gaza is the method. So I guess that's what comes up for me in some of you know, like some of our crossover worlds, because that's when you started to get into Palantir and Whitney Webb's work, which we did like an episode like off air early on about, because we connected over that, and because that kind of crosses over with Scott Horton's work. And then yeah, I've been seeing a bit more of Scott Horton, and he's obviously got that podcast as well. So yeah, we can get into that a bit as well. But yeah, I guess with so much um, going on in the world, kind of I guess I kind of wanted to start there because with you can different things vying for our attention, or pulling things in different directions. What kind of what thread comes up for you directly there?
Well, I really do like what Catherine says about Gaza being the method. I think there's a lot of truth to that, and just the fact that the Israeli state are like the pioneers of surveillance technology, and then you've got all these Jewish billionaires like Larry Ellison and other guys like the Palantir guys as well, that are like they're pretty open about it, like that they donate hundreds of millions of dollars towards Israeli companies, surveillance technology, the military, and Miriam Adelson, like donating heavily to Trump's campaign, and in exchange for favorable foreign policy towards Israel, moving the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, basically making it a foregone conclusion that there'll never be a Palestinian state of any kind. So yeah, all that stuff's like pretty hectic. And then I'm just like I've got antiwar.com just open right now, and some of the headlines are like Trump saying like we may have to disarm Hamas violently. US says Hamas is not violating Gaza ceasefire. Israeli forces continue to kill Palestinians in Gaza despite ceasefire. Smotrich, which is he's in the war cabinet with Benjamin Netanyahu. Bezalel Smotrich saying there will be Jewish settlements in Gaza. So yeah, there's like what's the latest news? I guess is like there was this peace deal that Trump's like brokered, and in exchange for the rest of the living Israeli hostages, which I believe there was 28. They hand them over, and then there was meant to be time for Hamas to uncover the dead bodies of the Israeli hostages. And the reason why they needed time is because a lot of them are buried under rubble. Like they don't really know where they are. It's not to take responsibility away from Hamas, like that. They took those those people as hostages, so they are responsible for them. But I just think, like, given the circumstances, that the heavy bombing that Gaza's been under, and I think it's reasonable to say that, like, yeah, that some of those dead hostages are going to be hard to find. But Israel's using that as an excuse, saying like, oh, they're violating the deal because they haven't given over all the dead hostages, and therefore we're going to start, bombing again. But from what Dave DeCamp has said at antiwar.com, that if you read through the deal, whatever the deal was called, or the 7 points or 14 points or whatever, that Israel acknowledged that there would be time, that they would have to give Hamas time to find some of these dead hostages. So that's sort of the latest in terms of like what's being reported in the legacy media and whatever else.
And
And
then, so what's the kind of the layer of like the alternative media or the true alternative media? Like if you kind of go like some like layers deeper there, like, do you think that um you know is it, like I guess like Douglas McGregor has been coming out a lot, and people like that, like, you know is there, yeah, like true intent to is there, is it, yeah, I don't really know what my question is here. Like, there's the mainstream media version, I guess, and then there's like, what are the kind of the people that like are in your like core group of like journalists or independent researchers or whatever? What are the kind of threads that they're pulling on right now?
well, yeah, like guys like Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate, and McGregor, and guys like, and then all the crew at antiwar.com, like, yeah, they're just like not optimistic about this at all. Like the way that the kind of like pro-Zionist types the way that they're sort of like framing it is that, oh, everyone should be happy, like this should be cause for celebration because we've got a ceasefire in place, and isn't that what everybody wanted? um but like Max Blumenthal says to that like, what do you mean celebration? Like, we've it's there's just been an end to a genocide. So yeah, like, that's great that the bombs have stopped dropping, but tens of thousands of people have just been slaughtered. So I don't know that there's much to celebrate. And also, I'm not, and he would say like he's not confident at all that this ceasefire is going to last. Um, and you can already see that there's these like whatever, like radicals in the Israeli government that are trying to use some of this stuff as pretext to start bombing again. So
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and then I guess the whole avenue of like the battle. I guess the stuff that comes up for me with when we talk about these kind of stuff is like the battle ready stuff. Going back to Gaza as a method part, and the technology part with and then the data part, and then the AI part, and then the kind of the you know a lot of what Catherine Austin Fitz is talking about a lot with the Gaza as a method part is the follow up implementation of these digital systems that we talk a lot about on here, but I guess I'm still just like a hound dog on that thread, at the risk of sounding like whatever. But yeah, I mean, I guess when we look at the immigration stuff and problem reaction solution, you know, if you can create the events to make all the immigration happen, and then implement a digital ID, and then even if there are private companies like 5 or 6 different ones like Whitney Webb says or whatever, if they all plug into each other, and then you have Ellison coming out and saying that they want all of the data, and then he got like he's the one that gets given TikTok America or whatever, and then he's on video saying that the issue with AI right now is that it's fragmented, like the data's fragmented, so you can't get it all, and we want to have it all. And then you know, Fitz talking about the ruse with AI is that it's very good at like implementing like a digital control system. It's very good at math and that kind of thing, but it's not good at solving the making our work life easier kind of a thing, which is like part of what they sell it for. And so she's now, maybe she always was like this, but just very directly saying that AI is the digital control system, and then talking about another layer of it is like a potential, them using it to funnel a lot of money into, and then also getting other countries like Russia and China to do it as well. So yeah, I know there's kind of a lot of subjects in there, but that's kind of some of the constant. That's kind of what you know. There's like all these different events going on, and we didn't, we said very briefly off air, like with the Charlie Kirk story and all of that, and the fight for our attention and things like that. And so some of the people that I hold in high esteem, what they're saying are things like use cash all of the time. Before the end of the year, we want to be using like, have like half of the people using like 100, using cash. Even though, yes, cash is based on the debt-based, fractal reserve lending, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just, I do believe in things like, you know, not just being all digital. And yeah, and then you see like in the UK with what's going on with all of that. But yeah, anyway, I know that there's like a bunch of things in there, and you can jump in here. But yeah, like even though they're all different topics, I see like similar threads, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree, dude, and I think you're absolutely right that the undercurrent of all of this stuff that's like happening on the surface is this push for this AI digitize, spying apparatus that wants to just control everything, every aspect of our lives, and we're definitely going in that direction. Yeah, and I agree, like with the cash thing too. Like, I'm not a fan of any currency that's issued by a state, but at least with like physical cash, there's some element of privacy there. I think that's probably the point that Catherine's sort of getting at. Whereas if it's
Mm.
digitized, everything's traceable, So,
Yeah.
and also with cash too, you can avoid taxes. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, man. No, I agree. Like, I think that that's sort of the bigger picture stuff that's going on that we've all got to keep an eye on, and not take our eye off the ball. And these guys are like open about it, like you mentioned, like Ellison's like just out there just saying all this stuff nonchalantly, that he wants all the data, and that it's going to be a very good way for everyone to be on their best behavior. Like, if the cops are all tracked, then the cops are going to be on the best behavior. If citizens are all tracked, then they're all going to be on their best behavior. And it's just scary fucking Orwellian shit.
Yeah, and can I ask you? I'm just going to burn some Palo Santo here, actually, but yeah, Ooh. Yeah, but
You bloody
can I
hippie.
just ask you like, yeah, can I ask you a couple of questions? I guess like we talk about sovereignty, and we talk about like nation states, and like the ability to like issue credit and things like that. And with the technocracy movement, there's this move to essentially like privatize a lot of like the stuff that's going on like within the government. So then they've got this ability to kind of not be held accountable or whatever. But it's like that same, and then there's like that technocracy part, which is like this um, you know, um, like international, transnational, yeah, like ability to, essentially like have like corporations as like these sovereign entities, and like yeah, like I guess the point being that there's like on some level, well, what the techno the like there's this. Okay, I'm trying to form a thought and get my question out. So it's like the people like these guys that are into technocracy, they've got some things right. They're like mostly wrong, but they have got like, some ideas mixed in with that. But they part of the like they're like the technology companies, they're not beholden to any particular one country. And so they can institute these technological systems, and part of what they when they kind of there's like a bleed through in like some of these good ideas around sovereignty, and then they kind of get it, when you start getting into like if the nation state's not real and all of that kind of thing, but then it's kind of this same thing that's gone from like the government or whatever into this like public-private partnership, like how, they changed total information awareness into Palantir, and then Palantir's creating that method in Gaza and that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not sure if I've really formed that sentence really well, but I just wanted to kind of get into that kind of with your background in some of the stuff that like you've like studied. It's like, what do you think of the like the nation state itself? Like, because if you kind of get into like, the no government or the no, issuance like the private, like the issuance of currency or like how these kind of fundamental systems work, like how does that nation state how did yeah how does that come up for you?
Well, the nation state is like the root of the issue, in my opinion, or like just any state, but like nation states is like this modern kind of version of a democratic state with a nationalist sort of like lean to it. But yeah, dude, like yeah, these public-private partnerships are all fucking corrupt and fucked, and and for the sole reason that it's like a private partnership with the nation state, and the nation state granting certain like privileges to these private companies, that are like doing things at the behest of the nation state. Like, and I think America's a good example because like even though they have whatever like their constitution and their bill of rights and the first second amendment and all that stuff, the first amendment saying that like Congress shall not infringe on freedom of speech, more or less. That's basically what it's saying. But how they get around it is like, well, we'll just like delegate, we'll delegate to some private company to crack down on free speech. And that way, technically, the government's not doing it, but they're doing it at the behest of the government. It's private companies doing it at the behest of. So like, and it's complex for sure. Like all this stuff gets, um, it's very nuanced and it's complex. But like, yeah, and also like what you're saying, how like some of these like private organizations and the people that at the heads of them are like using some language that sounds appealing to someone who's like more sympathetic to sort of freedom and less sympathetic to tyranny. Like say like Peter Thiel. Like Peter Thiel is a self-identified libertarian. But what the fuck's libertarian?
Exactly, that's kind of what I'm
But
getting
like
at.
what's
Yeah,
libertarian? But
yeah.
what's libertarian about the cunt? Like he's a fucking psychopath, tyrannical, technocrat who's in bed with the government, with the CIA. So like yeah, like so that stuff is like it's makes it tricky for like
Definitely
say
not the Antichrist. I'm going to do a four-part I'm going to do a four-part lecture because I'm definitely not the Antichrist.
yeah, like it, and I think it's, in my opinion, it's intentional because it muddies the waters for, say, like a normie who might hear me say, oh, libertarianism and it's a beautiful philosophy, but then they'll hear Peter Thiel say he's a libertarian and he's also the Antichrist or whatever the fuck, and look what he's doing in Gaza, and then they go, hang on, like if that's libertarianism, then I want nothing to do with that. And so yeah, like that's why I think it's helpful to actually like read the people who like are the like sort of the what's the word, I don't know, like the founders or like the kind of intellectual thought leaders of the like a libertarian movement or an anarchist movement, or an anarcho-capitalist movement specifically, like guys like Ludwig von Mises and Henry Hazlitt and Hans Hermann Hoppe and Murray Rothbard and all those guys, because they actually in great detail break down exactly what they're talking about. They're not just using buzzwords. They're saying, no, this is like the reason why this is in alignment with morality is because of X, Y, and Z, and they get really into just voluntarism and the non-aggression principle and private property, and actually defining private property in a clear way that makes it so obvious that any partnership with a government is no longer like, you cannot consider that to be private property anymore. It's crony,
Yeah.
like it's crony capitalism is the term.
Yep. Yeah, I got nothing to add. I enjoy hearing you talk about this stuff. So yeah, if you've got anything else that you want to add, or yeah,
For sure, dude. Yeah, not much else. That's like pretty much most of what like I can say on it. But yeah, it's frustrating, man. Like it's a constant uphill battle. Like I think, uh, like Dave Smith makes a good point about just like the war of like language, and how these different terms and things, how the meanings of these different terms like morphs and changes over time. Like say
yeah,
like Ludwig
yes,
Ludwig von Mises, in his time, like the early 1900s, he would have considered himself a liberal, and liberal ideas were essentially like what libertarian ideas, like we would refer to it as libertarianism now, but back 100 years ago it was referred to as liberalism. But then the term liberal and liberalism just gets bastardized so badly that now, like, if you bring up the term, like in an American sense, if you like invoke the term liberal, like what do you think of? You don't think of like fucking someone who like really values freedom, non-aggression, and private property. You think of like Hillary Clinton and fucking like John Kerry and people like that, because like they've just like they took that term and they fucking bastardized it, and said that like when they were going around throwing overthrowing governments all around the world, they were saying it's like in the spirit of liberal democracy, stuff like this. So like you associate liberalism with like war and tyranny.
yeah, yeah, and they've done that with 0 point energy for sure. They've really muddied the waters, and that's what I've learned a bunch about over the last couple of years. And then, this is also why Mike Passio gets a lot into etymology as well.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, and yeah, I mean, then they do it in finance as well, like you're repackaging, the same stuff that happened in 2008 with, yeah, with
Exactly.
the same thing, with yeah, just different names and things like that. Yeah,
Exactly, man. Like even the way that they like what they claim to be inflation is like in a finance setting, or economic discussion, is like not at all what inflation meant. What its true meaning is, and what people were referring to when they spoke about inflation. For pretty much most of human history, really, like ever since we've been using money. Inflation is like to inflate, to expand the currency supply. But today, like if you spoke to someone from like the whatever, like the Chicago school, or modern monetary theory and stuff like that, like they would refer to, or even just like whatever, like mainstream economics, like Keynesianism and stuff, when they're talking about inflation, they're talking about prices rising. They're referring to the CPI formula. But that's like that doesn't explain, like, because they'll be like, and they'll also refer to, like, they'll talk about inflation like, oh, it's a good thing, like we want a certain amount of inflation because that means that we get economic growth and stuff like that. But it makes no sense, because if your CPI is going up by 3% each year, then by definition you're 3% poorer each year, because your currency is losing 3% value each year. But they like mix up like they'll conflate inflation with like economic growth and productivity. But they're separate things. Like productivity and inflation is like two. Inflation is specific to the money supply, and productivity is like humans producing things.
yeah, and that's actually one of the things that came up about the productivity in AI that Fitz was talking about, was how it doesn't increase productivity or hasn't shown to, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of human productivity. Yeah.
I'm not even convinced that AI is like what we're being sold that it is. Like for all I know, it's like whatever, like 50,000 Filipinos just on the other end. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a deep subject. Like it's kind of, the typical answer is just like it does certain tasks related to maths and certain particular things. Like tracking financial transactions, like is what Fitch would say, it does that very well. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, then you have like the bubble aspect of it, and then you have like the money laundering aspect of it. But yeah, then you have the nuclear part of it in terms of, the kind of using the, energy and, the kind of emerging energy systems and things like that. Um, you know, there's talk of, if you can use, hide, zero point energy behind nuclear and then use AI to power, then you can kind of win that race, you know, to that AI supremacy and have the true AI supreme God, giving that technical intelligence full. Yeah, it's like, there's all of that part of it, and um, and then you get, it's, there's just to kind of go woo is just like, you know when people are getting into, like whether it's like nuclear or, the kind of zero point energy, stuff, there's this like deep overlap with the occult and the dark occult, and that's why you get even like more normie people like Tucker Carlson and all of that kind of always gone on about like good versus evil in like very simple terms. And even yeah, it's like is because yeah, it's like, they're all talking about things like, spiritual warfare and things like that. And then you have I'll think of the guy's name in a second, but like he's the key guy in a lot of these programs in the science and the intelligence and all of that. Yeah, it's just like I'm just blanking on his name right now, but he's Scientologist, and he's like one of the main people. And then it's like there's the Scientology links that Webb and those guys, right? They have these connections with NASA, and then then it's like, like why is there this kind of around this subject in UFOs and kind of alternative power systems and zero point energy and these kind of intelligence agencies and naval kind of things, and then the private companies like Lockheed Martin and all of that. It's like, and then people that go anywhere near the UFO subject or the kind of any of these more fringe subjects or whatever, they all kind of come back and start talking about like dark occultists and good versus evil and spiritual energy and spiritual warfare and like all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like, I know it's a huge segue, but yeah, that's kind of, yes, like that's like with the, yeah, kind of we talked about this like early on, was that the connection to nuclear, and that's one of the you know subjects that Ashton Forbes has kind of kept going harder at in recent times, is that science behind the aneutronic fusion and things like that. So, and then it's like, nuclear is like a perfect cover for, you know, you can't have it because it's dangerous and, nukes and going to blow up the world and all of that kind of thing. And so I guess I wanted to bring that into the subject because I know that we had like a lot of conversations about this, when like in private and things like that. I guess I kind of wanted just to bring that into the overall equation, like all of that, in terms of like, because I know that we've kind of had a bit of a back and forth about, like geopolitics, for example, right? And then like what's playing out, and then you have like your Douglas McGregors, and then you have like, Trump going on about whatever he said he was going to send Ukraine or whatever Tomahawks, and then it's like, but then you have these like layers behind, like the ballistic missile, hypersonic missiles, and all of that. So you know in terms of like the charade and the kind of the show on stage and kind of the Netanyahu, and like, yes, there's very real things happening for sure on a physical level in terms of Gaza and the actual like death and all of that in these different places, then you have that other technological kind of intelligence, public-private company stuff and all of that, and then you have like that. Yeah, then you have So I'm not sure what I'm asking there, but like I guess like the question, like what I'm leading towards is like like this kind of like the war with Iran, and this like the level of the I guess with the level of the technology and the stuff going for the nation states and these public private companies, which are like international companies, and then you have like the Lockheed Martins with that with the technology, and then you have these like the weapon systems and the kind of the tracking with the emergency systems and the pre-crime and these kind of things. It's like, and then you also have like the weapons technology, and the satellites and kind of space lasers, whatever you want to call it. Um, you know, how much of that narrative around like the brick and mortar, like okay, tanks and bombs and the death on the ground. Like is like what's the like I guess how much influences like each aspect, or is like I guess how to how to contextualize that, I guess.
It's a good question, dude. Yeah, I'm not sure to be honest, but I do find it interesting. I find it bizarre, actually, maybe is a better word, that so many times when like supposed nuclear armed countries go to war, they only ever use conventional weapons. And like I get like the argument of like, mutually assured destruction and all that sort of stuff, but like, during the whole Cold War, um, I mean, Scott would say there were many close calls, but it's just crazy to me that like that no one ever used these weapons that they supposedly have in their possession. Like not even once, not even like a tactical nuclear weapon or something that isn't necessarily going to like blow up the whole world or whatever that they say. But I mean, like the argument would be like, oh, if you once you use tactical nukes, then they start bringing out the big guns, and then it's just fucking on anyway. I'm not sure, man. Fucking, what's super interesting though is when I read Scott's book Hotter Than the Sun: Time to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, like
What
he
year did that come out?
2022 maybe something like that, but it's actually just a collection of it's a collection of transcripts from his podcast when he had interviewed different nuclear experts or different just different people on the topic of nuclear weapons. And at the very end of the book, dude, he talks about this religious group called the Plowshares. Hang on, let me just double check that that's what it is. But anyway, it was this religious group of like nuns that would would go around, break into nuclear weapon silos and pray over nuclear bombs. It's the craziest fucking story ever. Whether they're actually nuclear bombs or not, who fucking knows. I like what Owen Benjamin says, even though I know he's pretty fucking antagonistic and he's a funny comedian. I really like his comedy and stuff. And even when he's like going at people, um, a lot of the time to me it seems a little unfair, but I think it's fucking hilarious though at the same time. And that's probably why he's doing it, because he's just a comedian at heart and he knows it's funny. Even though he pisses off a lot of people. But he would say like he doesn't believe, he thinks nuclear weapons are fake and gay. But what he says like is like he's like, yeah, I believe like the government has really big bombs. He just doesn't think that they're necessarily nuclear. But hang on, plowshare movement. Sorry, just bear with us one sec. I just really want to get this right. Yeah, here we go. The plowshare movement. I'll put it on the share screen. Oh no, don't worry about it. I've got it all set up retardedly, sorry. The Plowshare Movement is an anti-nuclear weapons and Christian pacifist movement that advocates active resistance to war. The group often practices a form of protest that involves the damaging of, yeah, they fucking hit him with hammers and stuff, the damaging of weapons and military property. The movement gained notoriety in the early 1980s when several members damaged nuclear warhead nose cones and were subsequently convicted. The name refers to the text of Prophet Isaiah, who said the sword shall be beaten into plowshares. So anyway, I just thought that was just like a fascinating chapter at the very end of the book where, yeah, it's just this like religious group that are just fucking breaking into, like, you know, they would be highly secure, you know, like military bases where that are housing these silos of fucking nukes or whatever. Just getting in there and whacking them with hammers. Anyway, yeah, so yeah, dude, like it's a fascinating topic, and yeah, I think you're probably right about some of that stuff that Ashton talks about, how it's like really just a fucking disguise, like to, you know, that there's like, that doesn't surprise me at all that there's like this hidden technology that they're claiming to be nuclear, and therefore it's a massive security risk and no one can know about it and whatever else, while really they're like working on some other, like, you know, more sophisticated hectic shit.
Yeah, I think they would, I think part of it is that they say things technically so they're not technically wrong or whatever. I think it's like part of that same like language shenanigans.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like it's not that they're not doing nuclear, if you know what I mean. Like it's that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. No, I hear you, dude. You know what's sorry, just one oh fuck, what was I gonna say? Damn it, sorry. It'll come back to me. um,
No, that's
yeah,
all right. I mean, I just want to. I'm happy to bounce around, brother. I'm just happy to bounce around and kind of, this is kind of like a nonsensical kind of, just like there's so much context and it just kind of, we don't have that much time, so we're not going to go into like 12-hour, depth of things. And one of the things I've been, I guess one of the things that I'm been doing as well is I've just been pushing through the Passio podcast into the 160s now.
look at you
And
go,
I'm
bro.
signed
Good
up
on you.
sign up to his shadow work course next month, and did that on Equinox. And yeah, and then I guess like one of the things that I see going on right now, just on a basic level, this is like no great insight or anything, and would just trigger you and everyone probably, but and it's just basically like, you do see that kind of, I see that real, push for like Christian religion, um as a, you know, whether it's natural or not natural, or both, but you've got Israel and the Jews and all of that kind of stuff, and then you've got the Muslims and immigrants and then different things like that. But yeah, I just, there just, I am just aware of the, because I hold all religions in the same kind of vein, obviously, so, I just, yeah, I just, yeah, I guess I'm just wary, I guess, is just kind of my position. I just see it, it's like everyone, all of the influencers and different media and journalism, and then, like everyone at once is like, yeah, it's just like it's all like specific, and I know that's just my filter or it's an anecdote or whatever, and I know it is happening and things like that. But yeah, I guess I kind of, and someone kind of did mention it's like, it's kind of like Zionism light or whatever. But yeah, I just kind of seen that happen as well as, like, it is, yeah. What do you have to say about that?
No, I get it, man. Look, like, you know, I consider myself a Christian, um, but I like, I understand what you're saying. I think the the reason, in my opinion, why there's truth to uh, like these, you know, Abrahamic faiths and the beef between them all, and whatnot, is and then that actually like really playing a, you know, some role on some level in some of these political matters, and the carnage and stuff that's going on around the world, is because, like, I don't know, man, I'll probably like lump myself in this group, so like I'm not having a go at anyone, like, per se, or that, yeah, like I'm not trying to put myself above other people, but I just think that like a lot of people are ignorant, man. A lot of people are just like, maybe ignorant's not the right word, but a lot of people are just, they want to believe in something, and so that's what their parents believed and what their grandparents believed before them, and they're told that like that these different traditions is like where how we got here, and the like customs and things that we're all like that a lot of people are used to and stuff is like it's because of their faith. And like a lot of people would say that just like Western civilization is like you know uh was like based in Christian values, or whatever. I'm not even necessarily saying that that's like true or anything like that, but I'm just saying like that's what a lot of people like. That's the story that they're told, and so like I
Yeah,
don't.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like I don't like blame anyone for like, and like I said, like I include myself in like what these people I'm talking about to some extent, because like I just I don't know enough. I always want to know more, and so like there is an element of kind of just like um of like faith and a desire to sort of like worship, I guess, or something. There's something greater than myself
Yeah, yeah,
around.
I get all, I get it all, I get it all on that level. I guess I was just speaking to, you know, it's like, I guess I don't like on any level because, and we don't have to get into the topic of religion per se, but Passio does get into the origins of the word and religare and all of that kind of stuff. But I guess more so, I just there's other subjects, I guess is my point, that are like not related to religion or Christianity.
Mm.
And then I just kind of see the kind of the push to essentially make it about the God of religion and Christianity and things like that, where I feel like there's more nuanced levels and you can kind of pass things out. And I just am aware of like what I believe is like trying to like bring that in, and it's like happening through, you know, and then yeah, it's just like it's kind of more of a mainstream normie thing because it kind of feels a bit like, the fake alternative media kind of level, or
Mm.
yeah, it's just kind of yeah.
I hear you do, but like, what doesn't help though with like, like people sort of thinking that this all comes down to religion and spirituality is like when you've got the heads of the Israeli state like referring to Palestinians as Amalek and like invoking all these like religious texts and wanting to build the third temple and fucking sacrifice a bunch of animals and get rid of the like get rid of a mosque, and there's so much stuff that like their language is like speaking in this like biblical way that I don't know, like I suppose like anyone who's like sort of paying a little bit of attention is just going to be like, what the fuck is that? Oh, the other thing I was going to say too,
Yeah.
dude, just before I forget though, is and you reminded me mentioning Passio is a great source like piece of work to check out of Passio's regarding like Nazism and the occult, and the ties with the occult and all that sort of stuff is his what was it? I think it was a documentary on Nazism and the occult. It's like a 6 hour thing on YouTube, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's really
yeah.
fucking good,
Two
man.
masks face, two
Yes,
masks, same face, or something like that.
that's the
Yeah,
way. Let
yeah,
me pull it up. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was fucking really good.
yeah, yeah. Good on you for shouting that out. Um,
Yeah, two masks,
yeah,
same face.
yeah.
The
I
dark
mean,
occult
like,
origins of Nazism and communism.
yeah. And what did you think of that? You watched it, right?
Oh, it was yeah. I watched it. Oh, it was incredible, dude. It's just so much stuff that I had no idea about, and how like even down to like this is just one tiny little detail out of the five. Oh no, it's a 8 hour documentary, but one detail that sort of stuck with me was like just even things like how uncharismatic apparently Hitler was in his early career, and then how charismatic he became in the end there. And it was like he was ended up working with these like occult practitioners. He was learning about just the powerful nature of like language and how the right words to say. I don't know, just like, and essentially like the ability to cast spells on the masses, just things like that. But it just goes into so much detail about the technology that they had, and where their sort of like influence and knowledge was coming from. It these ties to these occult organizations.
Ooh, and then you've got Trump being last name Drumpf, right, which is German, and then you've got Baron Trump, the time traveler, making 190 million on inside trading. And, is he time traveling, bro? Got that, got that Trump's uncle technology that he got from Tesla.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, speaking of Trump, let me, if you don't mind, let me just segue to just this 3 minute clip. Um, yeah, just I won't even give too much context. We can just check it out, and I'd love to like get your thoughts and whatnot. Oh yeah,
So,
I better mute you. I better mute you, brother.
Broken promises from many other American presidents. You know that they kept promising. I never understood it until I got there. There was a lot of pressure put on these presidents. It was put on me too, but I didn't yield to the pressure. But every president for decades said, we're going to do it. The difference is I kept my promise and officially recognized the capital of Israel and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem. Isn't that right, Miriam? Look at Miriam. She's back there. Stand up, Miriam. Stand up. Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I could think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got 60 billion in the bank, 60 billion. And I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it, and they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. He was a very aggressive, very supportive of me. And he'd call up, can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the president of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in and we would do.
Hey.
But they were very responsible for so much, including getting me thinking about Golan Heights, which is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen to Israel. Miriam, stand up, please. She really is. I mean, she loves this country. She loves this country. Her and her husband are so incredible. We miss him so dearly. But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say. We love you. Thank you, darling, for being here. That's a great honor. Great honor. She's a wonderful woman.
You're unmuted now, dude. What the fuck is that, man? What the fuck is that? When he's talking about the Golan Heights, he's talking about Israel in the Six-Day War, 1967, occupying part of Syria.
yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just focus on a different part there. Like I've been talking. Don't get me started, but I've been talking to this guy who's like, what we would consider, like, I'm just not part of the quality of the sources. I guess it would be a light way to put it, or whatever. I can do all of the different things that I kind of get really cynical about and call them mind virus and things like that. but he would look at that last part and talk about how that's like Trump, bringing to light that she's, on Israel's side and all of that. But then there's like ignoring the kind of the facts of the matter on the funding and gloating about bringing through more than any other president, like in all of these things that he's done. And then it's like, oh, and it's still like, oh yeah, it's 5D chess, like he put her on stage and let the world know, that she's on Israel's side. It's like, yeah, anyway, that's it's kind of, I know that's kind of like a very like low level like analysis, but like that's just kind of like the chatter in the streets, brother. What do you have to say about that?
Well, yeah, like I've heard, I mean, Dave Smith played that clip on his podcast, and he was sort of saying the same thing of like, he doesn't believe in the 5D, 4D chess, whatever Trump sort of stuff. Like he's kind of just like, well, yeah, he's kind of just like more of the, like, I think it's just sort of like the thing with Trump is like, it's just right in your face. It's just like what you see is exactly what he is. That, he's just like this, you know, uh, self-promoting ignoramus who says the quiet part out loud more often than not. Um,
Maybe. I
yeah,
do
I
think
don't know.
ignoramus I do think with all these things, I think that people like plead ignorance in a way to get off with stuff. I think, but I do agree, and I guess part of what and again I know I just keep referring to Fitz with everything, and it's just kind of I've just been watching the quarterly report or whatever, but part of it is like 6 weeks um before I forget what it was, 6 weeks before something, before the shooting, she was talking about how uh he's like done the deal with the establishment, and he's going to deliver the technological, like digital control system and all of that, and all that kind of stuff. So, and then there was like they played a clip of a video, and it was it's basically like selling equity, like cashing in and kind of just like doing all of those kind of deals. And it's like, yeah, and that's where you've got like Zuckerberg and Gates and Ellison and Israel and and all of that, and then like setting yourself up for the future with all of the crypto and all of that kind of stuff. I know that's just like only one level of it, but yeah, that's all there.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely, man. Um, yeah, but like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think what I really do like about that clip is that he is just straight up saying that it's because of Miriam Adelson that I moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and that I'm, very supportive of Israel. Maybe that's not like the entire reason, but it's a part of it, and he's just like saying it right there. Whether that's
Well,
4D.
I think, yeah, yeah, and I think this is where
This is the stuff
you
that
know,
Nick Fuentes is like fucking gaining massive momentum, blowing up off. Is
yeah,
like he is like pointing this stuff out, and he's got his kind of conclusions. Like I'm not necessarily agreeing with, but how can you deny like the influence of like these uh, Zionist Jewish billionaires having over the American government and getting favorable policy from it?
and I think this is, I know this is like another tangent or whatever, but like, and I guess this is why I kind of have a limit with stuff with Dave Smith as well. As much as I love listening to him, and I have been listening to the latest Joe Rogan episode again that he did a month ago, just something to do. But and I know that you're going to have some answers about why it's about whatever it is, and he participates in the political system, even being anarchist and all that kind of thing, but this is kind of why I always kind of side with people that I keep mentioning, like Passio or Webb or whomever it is, because it's like either like with the voting and all of that. So like all of these people and not just him, but that whole I've seen a few things like the comedy podcasting and like all of this different thing. It's like the promotion of Trump, um, kind of basically because it's not the other side or whatever. And I know that you can talk about in the short term there's all these arguments for like it would have been worse and all whatever the thing is, but kind of that's where there's like an opportunity to talk about, independent or anarchy or natural law or true, the right thing to do or kind of true libertarianism or whatever flavor you want to go with. And yeah, yeah. I mean, I know that there's going to be like, good reasons for all of that, but that's just one of the reasons why I've got kind of, yeah, I like him, but I've got the shits with him as well, I guess. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I hear, man. I talked to some other people too who like sort of feel the same way about Dave. But what is it? Is it like is the reason you've got the shits with him is because he did decide to support Trump and vote in that last election?
No, it's not just that. And I think I kind of mentioned it to you privately as well. I just think that, yeah, I mean, I think that it's like good information to a point, and then I think that it's kind of like stops at kind of quite a mainstream
Yeah,
level
no, I'd
when
agree with that.
I
I'd agree
think,
with that.
yeah.
I think what he's doing is I think he's trying to talk to normies more than anything. I think he's trying to get people to at least just like think about government being evil in and of itself, but then not really going much further than that. So yeah, like I get it, dude. I agree. I think the people that you're listening to, especially Austin Fitz and Passio, are going very very deep and doing a lot more intense research into the uh, the I don't know how do I put it, like just the mechanics of like what's happening underneath the surface level.
Yeah, and I guess I just kind of wanted to, before we go, I just wanted to kind of bring up like a whole nother like range of subjects just for the sake of it, just to bring it in, even though, it's not really like following yeah, I guess like, I guess part of what I see happening right now is like you have like all these billionaires, building bunkers, and then you have people like, Ben Davidson and the magnetic, pole flip and the, different cycles, and then you have the kind of recent update on that kind of part of it was that the polls have moved 30% and like 10% in the last, I'll have to bring it up, but yeah, it's kind of like accelerated, 10x or whatever. And that's not fear porn or anything like that, but there's, what also what Catherine Austin Fitz talked about, was like, like 100 underground cities, and then you have this yeah, I guess what I'm up to with Passio's podcast is he's talking about, ancient origins and going beyond the social Darwinism and the interference theory and Lord Pye's work and things like that. Um, and yeah, I mean, these are all like subjects where there's just, so much information behind it, but it's just kind of like about, humans like 400,000 years ago and not coming from primates. And then was there interference by an intelligent organism or being or whatever in our ancient past, which is why we've got certain traits in our DNA and things like that, which are like very fringe subjects, but then there's like been like bodies of work behind that, and then like the skulls, like and all of that. And so, I think, one of the, I guess part of why I'm bringing that up is because you have that human origins layer, and then you have like these natural cycles which also happen, which, one of the main threads that I've been, uh, pulling on since like 2018 at least, when I went to that conference that I mentioned with Ben Davidson, the Suspicious Observers, is like all of the science behind that. And I guess one of the things is that like having this like multidisciplinary approach, which is one of the things that I like about Ben Davidson. And he's got his own, personality things or whatever, but it's like one of the things is like do the homework and like go and watch the videos and actually do that. And that's something that Passio, that I appreciate about him as well, is just because like a huge diverse range of like sources and like material. And I guess, with Davidson, it's very like, like all these different disciplines of science to do with, the sun physics basically. And then you've got all of these like, indigenous teachings, which have also got the stories of that. And then you've got then you've got these researchers, like, Lord Pye, that, I haven't gone into his work yet, but, or like Brian Foster, for example, or going into ancient Egypt and the Kemet, and this kind of thread around mystery schools, which, is to do with kind of like the natural history and the advanced technology that was required, to build these structures. And like, why do they have like, these huge blocks, and, you know just very basic things like the stories that how it got there and what we're being told. And I know I'm bouncing around, but like, I guess what I'm saying is there's like, there's all of these like bodies of work which are so fragmented, which like are key kind of data points in like what we're talking about. But then you just basically have like a very tightly controlled media where like, five companies own it or whatever. And um you can just be like, nukes, let's go fucking kick out their government or whatever. And then it's like, bad guy over there. And then it's just like, it's just theater, and that's kind of where me and you kind of intersect in some way, where it's like it's all very real. And then like kind of the question all the time is like how much of it's actually real because of all this other stuff. I find that part fascinating in a way.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Yeah, don't have much more to add to that, but it's all super fascinating, and I've got to check out some of these resources that you're digging into, because yeah, there's I've just got so many unanswered questions in regards to so many of these different topics, and like the guys that I like following, they give answers to sort of what you're saying, like some of the surface level narratives that are foisted upon us, but then there's just so many other unanswered questions that sort of that isn't explained by like whatever, like what's a good example, like, I don't know, 9/11. Fuck, there's just so many events that I just think there's
Yeah.
just more stuff
Oh,
to
and,
it,
and I know we're wrapping up, but that's what I was going to bring up. Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up specifically, was because David Smith was going on about how when he was 18 that happened, and he was going on about that in Rogan. And I know we can wind up here, brother, but yeah, that's kind of, it's like that is like a pivotal point in time, like, those that time period and those events and what unfolded afterwards, and the lead up to it, and like the symbology behind it. And
yeah.
yeah, and yeah. But yeah, I mean, and Passio's done work on it, and I'm happy to go through in future episodes some of these other topics, like Ben Davidson's work from Suspicious Observers. And yeah.
Let's do it,
But
brother.
good to see you again, brother, and we'll do it
So
again
good to
soon.
see you, man.
Yep.
We're gonna go play some tennis soon, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it. All right, brother. Much love, man. So good to see you. Peace out, everybody. Oop, hang on. I've got to do something. I'm sorry, dude. Just let me keep it on that screen for 1 second, because I foolishly did not correctly set up the outro video, and now I'm going to do it right now on the fly, because that's how we roll. We just roll with the punches. All right, brother.
We're in the true media in real time.
All right, catch him, my man. Peace out, everybody. Oh, like and subscribe. Hey, if you like what you see, like the video, subscribe. Please share it. We'd really appreciate all that sort of stuff. All right, catches.
And here's what it is. This is actually what the true great work is now. It is the arduous task of influencing other people to go through the very same process of change, of positive change in consciousness that you have gone through. It is to help them to realize that in supporting and condoning the legitimacy of authority and government, in other words, man's law, that what they have actually been supporting and condoning is the legitimacy of slavery. Truth is objective. That means that it's not dependent upon the perceptions of human beings. No one wants to hear that. That is a direct assault, a direct frontal assault on the human ego. What truth is that which does not waver. It's there, it's always been there, it's always going to be there. Nothing anybody does can change what has happened. I'm talking about the events that have taken place in the past and are taking place in the present. That's all. And guess what? That's all the truth is. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that.